Yeah,
All right, cool. We're back.
we're here.
I'm doing my Freeberg impression here, switching up my backgrounds for each one of these podcasts
Well,
now.
there you go. I like that. Um,
Until we move and I get a better aesthetic behind me, we're going to be doing virtual backgrounds for a little bit.
dude, talking about moving, I don't know, maybe it's a good start of segue. Dude, using ChatGPT's deep research for like personal stuff, it's fascinating.
Like what?
Like, so I ran a scenario by ChatGPT deep research where, like, I've been in my house for like 10 years. We pay X amount for mortgage. I got to get some repairs done, so I might need to take out a loan, like a HELOC, etc. And then I've got some other scenarios where mother-in-law might need to move in with us years down the line, getting an ADU, etc. And so I'm like really trying to balance out, like, hey, do I stay in this house or do I look to move? And here's the scenarios and the situation. Um, Dude, it's fantastic. It literally broke down like my two scenarios. It gave me like follow up questions. So whenever you do a Chat GPT deep research, you give it the prompt and then it asks for clarifying questions, which basically makes a better prompt for it to react on. So I fed
Yep.
it all the information I did. It took about 15 minutes, and I'm just curious. I don't know. I don't know. Like, is it possible for me to go move somewhere else based on?
Conversation and
Yeah,
back
just
and
a
forth took
conversation.
15 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I just don't know what I don't know as far as like, is this financially even something in the realm of possibilities that, hey, moving, because I've been in this house for 10 years, we definitely have equity in it. But then the
Yep.
marketplace itself, where it's at and what I need, is that even something that's there? Dude, it did a
That's
fantastic
so cool.
analysis that broke down where it's like, oh, this is a possibility. Here's a couple different scenarios of what your monthly payments might be, etc. But just even noticing it's like a possibility um, was fascinating. And it's like, if I didn't have ChatGPT, who would I have gone to? I'd have maybe like asked. I mean, I'm pretty close with my dad on stuff. Like, maybe ask him, but he's not an expert. He's got some experience on it, but not an expert. Then I got to go ask maybe a real estate agent,
I was going to
maybe
say like a real estate agent or a
real estate
lawyer
agent,
if you had like a
financial planner potentially.
yeah.
I would have to talk to like five different people to get all their opinions to see if even if it's a possibility. Um, and yeah, it was just kind of nuts. So I guess my point is like using the deep research tool for like personal stuff when you're like not sure about something. It is absolutely a resource. It's not like the all in be all, but at least gets you into a different direction
So
of
smart.
thinking, because I think a lot of times people don't act on something because they think it's so difficult to do or they don't have the access to information, so they don't even try. And that's where that whole concept, you don't know if you don't know. And so people just say, fuck it, I'm not even going to try to find out.
No doubt.
So it kind of opens up a door. You're like, oh shit, okay, I got to really look at this situation because it could be advantageous for me to move, depending on if it makes sense or not, or, based on new variables I feed it, it makes sense to stay where I'm at. So just really fascinating to use it for personal stuff, not work related. Beyond like, hey, I need to update an email or a simple question or query, like a really deep question that you're just not sure about.
No doubt.
Try it. You might like it.
No doubt. I think that's so cool. And I think that's a good example of what I've said for a little bit. Like I feel like I find myself using LLMs for different things that I never would have for search. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if that like took a. I feel like I always tie it back to like SEO and paid search ads. Just being in that ball game there. But like historically, would you have gone to Google to do that? Like maybe some, but like that would have just been such a process.
So deep research goes to Google and or
And
not
just
doesn't
does
go
it
to
all
Google,
for
but
you.
it does the searches. Dude, it actually went to Zillow and a couple different property websites and pulled relevant listings. Which was interesting. Like, hey, yeah, actually, I want to stay in this area. Here's a couple example of possibly relevant listings that could make sense within this budget. So it was like it went a step further. It was like, oh, interesting.
Yep. And that's like stuff that you probably wouldn't have done though. At
No,
least me. I'd be like,
no.
dude, I don't feel like spending this time to dig through these articles and dig through this shit. Like, that's such a cool use case there.
Yeah, I did another use case last night. I was just sitting on the couch watching some TV with the wife, and my my dog, which now I'm calling a dire doodle, no longer a golden doodle, since they have cloned the dire wolf, which we can always talk about, or they didn't clone, but they you heard about that though, the dire wolves.
I'm listening to the
The
episode that,
podcast.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, they genetically engineered a couple dire wolves, and so they're back. And so I always joke around like what my dog. He's a very weird looking dog. Not really weird, but he's a golden doodle. But he looks more like a little bit of a wolf character in there. So I'm just gonna call him a dire doodle. Anyways, my point, bringing it back to ChatGPT advanced research or deep research, is that dog is not motivated by treats at all. Like that is not his like training. Like he'll literally he'll like look at a really like, dude, I got like a hot dog, and he'd be like, sniffs it and like, nah, I'm good. I'm not going to do what you need me to do, master.
That's
So he's
amazing.
not motivated by food, dude. He's motivated by smell. And I've never like done any research on like how do I motivate a dog that's like motivated by smell. Like, how do I train that? So I asked it. Told him, I was like, hey, it's a golden doodle. This he has a couple more questions. And then he, did the research while I was on TV. And by the time, I don't know, 15 minutes went by, I've got like this expert article on how to train a dog that is smell motivated with reference links, etc.
That's really cool.
So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll dig into that. But then it got me thinking. I'm like, dude, those deep research articles, why wouldn't I just copy and paste that and put it on my goldendoodle.com dog website? Google's going to love that shit. Like, it is really well written. I could probably ask it to rewrite it in more of a personalized tone. I'm
True.
really curious on how well Google would react to that content because it's got the cited links. It's got everything. It's what Google wants is someone to do some
Sure.
very in-depth research. So that got me thinking. I'm like, so if I just buy a $200 ChatGPT account and I get these kind of queries going, could that content that it produces, because it's long, it's referenced, it's formatted, it's everything that Google wants, could it rank really well?
I would assume.
I would
I mean, you
think,
probably could even like, have that be like an automated thing.
oh, 100%. You
You
could
know what I
totally
mean? Where it's like,
automate that.
hey, produce one of these every single day, or produce one of these every hour, or
Well, a
something
lot of
like
people
that.
are using like ChatGPT, just the 4 or the 4.0 or the 4.50, whatever the fuck version it's on
I
now,
think it's 4 out. Yeah, yeah.
um, to write articles, right? And it comes back and it's pretty decent. They hash it out and etc. And it can be used from a online publishing standpoint. You got to be careful that it's not too spammy and your site's actually genuine. And it's like if someone manually audited the site or the article, they wouldn't feel like it's AI generated and actually has value. That's like the biggest thing.
Yeah,
So people are using it that way, but I'm like, are people using deep research and publishing that shit? Because they should, because
I
that it's
guarantee
really
it.
well done. Like I'm like,
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
because if I was then to your point, oh, you would have Googled that maybe. Well, if I Googled it now with that, I'd have the perfect article with my answer. You know, like
True.
so. But then it gets at one point we've talked about this before. It's like the snake eating the snake because eventually all that content that's been produced online, that's where they're consuming the content. It no longer becomes original, and it's like the AI is feeding off AI content. It's like what point, you know? Um, and that's where we've talked about the need to use different resources like UGC content from Reddit or actual new published books and stuff to feed it because the internet itself is, uh, yeah, that's not going to be a great resource anymore. But yeah,
No
just an
doubt.
interesting thought on the deep research stuff.
That's really cool. Did you see did you see the Gemini 2.5 release and like some like the image creation and everything that they got a lot of buzz for? I think this was last week or it might even been earlier this week here.
No, I did not.
So Google released its new its updated model. It's Gemini 2.5 and it scored the highest on benchmarks for how they test the LLMs. So they actually like regained their top position within LLMs there. And the big thing was its ability to generate images were like really legit. I saw a ton of examples online of people producing images that were like really cool based off of prompts, and you could see like where organic social media management, paid ads, display ads, images, all that stuff's just going to be prompted. Um, like
Interesting.
it's going to just save so much time. And so that was a cool release. The one thing that I was thinking of that I feel like is like such I don't know, moat would be a good word for it, but like kind of a moat in the sense that Google has so many good products that you use or that we use all the time, like Google Hangouts or, Docs and Excel and everything. The fact that it's just like automatically integrated in there has such good brand awareness, because you're always thinking about like Gemini, you see like that branding and that logo all the time. And then in Docs now, like our teams have used that a little bit more. I'm sure it's going to get way more advanced, but like you're in a Word doc or you're in a Google Doc online, highlight something, and then you have Gemini that's automatically connected to that doc. And then you could prompt like, hey, could you like update this sentence for me to be more professional? Or, hey, could you pull in this thing? But you could see where that goes in the future where you have multiple people working on a doc. Hey, can you insert an image of like, somebody like looking like they're working in a professional office here? Could you do this? Could you like, and just have it just completely integrated with the product? I feel like is such an advantage that's going to be tough for like an OpenAI or Anthropic to like compete against because Google's not going to allow, I don't know, maybe if there's like you're going to pay for the subscription service or like something along those lines, but like all those products, Google's going to integrate Gemini into all of that. And then, that's going to have such market share, such use case, such brand recognition right there. It's like such an advantage that they have.
Yeah, I think that's totally accurate, man, because the only reason I use ChatGPT right now and not Gemini is because probably a couple of reasons. One, I'm early adopter of it. I'm comfortable with it. I understand I have history built up in my GPT account, which is a big thing. But if for like work related stuff, yeah, everything is in that ecosphere of Google. You have your Google Gemini notes, you got everything there, and you
Like
can organize it to
the
train your
transcription
client.
stuff on
Yeah,
calls.
yeah, yeah. The transcriptions, the notes, they're getting better and better. So you kind of build that up as a database within Google. Kind of what we had talked about before, even with ChatGPT, is using it as a central repository for your clients. So it has that knowledge base. Well, Google has everything in there, and we're already feeding it going to Google Docs. So if Gemini can do that, I think it's very uniquely positioned for companies like ours,
No doubt.
because we use Google products all the time. I don't know if it's that much of a competitive edge with the bigger companies that use more enterprise software like Microsoft Teams, etc. I think each will have their kind of own LLM built on top of it that will
Yep.
then be able to interact. Because right now it's a bit scattered across the way, for it to integrate it all in. There are some systems that are trying to do that, but yeah, based on Google's entry point of having all these different products, it's like, why wouldn't you use Gemini? Because you're
No
already
doubt.
using everything else. Like I read your emails, you get Gmail, you got Google Docs, you got the transcriptions.
It's got the whole
So
thing.
yeah, I think it makes sense for marketing companies.
And think about like our type of business, like an ad agency that is pretty much a Google company. Like you guys are all Google products, right? At this point, like Drive and Note, Docs and Hangout and all that, Gmail. If you're on a call, like I'm assuming you're probably going to get to the point where like you have what transcribes calls right now for you guys is Gemini, right?
Yeah, we do it pretty much for everything. So we don't record calls, but we transcribe
The
and give them
transcribe.
notes. Yeah.
So think about, I mean, I would assume this is, not far off where you get on a call with your clients in your Google Hangout and, hey, we got to add broad match keywords. Like that was one of our recommendations for this call. Hey, Gemini, could you add a Basecamp ticket for us to next Friday for Trevor
You
to
just
add broad match
use
keywords
Google's Basecamp, whatever
or
that might be.
whatever?
Right.
Like you
And then
literally could like automate the
or have it just
whole
integrate straight into. Well, you're talking specifically with Google Ads product, but dude, it could just go then jump into your Google Ads account and add the fucking
and
campaign.
eventually just totally do that for you. Yeah. But like
Yeah,
I think the first step before like gets to that like full automation would be like okay, it's either recording your call or it's transcribing your call. And then while you're on a call with your client, you could literally say, hey, Gemini, go and add this to whatever, or add this calendar invite. Okay, we just like, you know, we just figured out when our next reporting call is. Or, hey, after this call, can you just like send so and so an email with these notes? Like, there's so many things that you could do based off of like project management and action items that is like already integrated within the product.
yeah. Like
That's
even
why
from like
it's
a sales
wild.
perspective, we transcribe a lot of those meetings. So yeah, like to your point, like can we do the follow up? Here's this. Here's my proposal, and it's like almost automated. I mean, it's still got to have some human touches in there. It's not perfect because I think we don't know what we want it to do or how to ask it. But yeah, it's going to get there in
Yeah, you definitely still need some
years.
like, human controls in there. The one other thing too that I thought was interesting that you said that I've thought about before, and I totally agree, is I feel like for the most part I use ChatGPT, like the pro version, like mainly like 4.0. Um, but it's funny because you said like, early adopter and brand. It's so crazy to think about businesses that are like first to market and that brand and how like magnetic that is. Like I don't know. It's like I feel like OpenAI released ChatGPT and it's like your first experience with an LLM and like you first use ChatGPT and it's like for some odd I don't even like Sam Altman. Like I'm not like a hater, but I'm not like a big Sam Altman guy. I kind of think there's something
Yeah.
like funny there with that guy. But like I don't know. I have like an affinity towards ChatGPT. It's weird, and it just shows like the power of brand and how like important brand is. It's funny you said that because I've thought about that before, and I don't know what it is, but I guess it's like my first experience with an LLM was ChatGPT. They were super early on. Like there's something there with that brand.
I think brands in general too. It's like you get the buy-in. I think with ChatGPT is an interesting one because we've grown with it. Like we've seen the product releases, etc. But even like other brands, like not internet marketing related, I'm sure there's a certain brand of like shoes or workout clothes that you're like super like
Or
into.
Uber,
That's like right. Why not Uber versus
First Lift. I feel like most
First
people
Lift?
use Uber because it was like the first one. It has the brand. It like established it early on, and like, hey, like that's another good example.
Yeah, there's definitely a value behind the brand. I mean, even with some of the clients, it's great working with a client that truly does have a brand. Have you ever worked with a client that um, just doesn't have a good brand, like it just or a brand following, I should
So
say?
many, so many.
It's tough.
It's not easy.
It's like there's some sort of like that momentum that happens when you do have a brand, uh, and when you just don't have it, it's just missing like that extra, I don't know, chromosome or like piece to really fit this together. It's like the missing part of the algorithm to have things go successfully. Um, I remember back in the day when the CBD stuff got really big, um, and everybody and their mother was trying to sell stuff online, but there was no brand following. They had a brand, but no brand following. So it was almost impossible, even if you did rank really high in the search results, um, to get people to convert. I mean, it's just so difficult without that brand. And we're kind of slowly learning that even with our own business of Collective 42, of like being me and Ricardo's brand. The longer that we do this, the reputation that we get out there, it's kind of cool to actually see like the number of people searching for us has gone up over
Neat.
time. I can tell in Google Search Console, you know, I just don't know how or where, like sometimes, but it's like it's important, that brand.
That's really cool. Um, the one question that came to mind that I don't know, clients are starting to ask a little bit more about it, but we're trying to figure this out. Like when it comes to, and I want to get your take here when it
Yeah.
comes to reporting. So we're talking a bunch about like LLM usage and like if that does have an impact on SEO and organic. Obviously, it like depends on some of like the topics or the business and the niche that lives in there. Um, but have you considered? I don't know how to pose this, like reworking dashboards or how you report SEO to clients, meaning you might not get as much traffic as you once did. So you might want to reconsider your KPIs. Reason I ask is I saw Rand Fishkin put out a video recently. He has a bunch of really good content. He's like a really good follow on Twitter or
Mm-hmm.
uh, or on LinkedIn. It's funny too because he always talks trash on Twitter, but like he always posts on Twitter. So like I don't really understand that. But he like went through of like 2015 to now 2025 of like what were your like top of funnel KPIs, middle funnel KPIs, and bottom of funnel KPIs, and how like all how those have like somewhat changed, and how impressions, organic engagement, and that type of thing is way more valuable than it used to be. Um, I don't know. I kind of rambling here,
Yeah,
open
no, no,
ended
no.
question, but have
So
you considered like shifting how you're like, hey, maybe back in the day we would have said like clicks, volumes, click-through rate from organic is like our North Star, and maybe it's a little bit different nowadays.
Well, I have a couple of use cases even for our own of kind of how LMs are kind of affecting how people research and find companies like ours or maybe our clients. For us, even individually, um, we had just checking in. You can still hear me, right? Trevor, you're on mute or you dropped out. Oh no.
Did we're here?
All right, we're here. Okay. Yeah, all of a sudden it just dropped out.
We're here.
Okay, cool. So, what did you catch last? I just want to make sure.
I heard the whole thing.
Oh, okay, weird. All right, so um, we had a lead that came through, and I can see pretty much all the traffic that comes through to our website. I've mentioned this before because we don't get a high amount, but we use the our B2B. That's kind of helpful, but
RB2B. Yep.
yeah, but then I also have Google real-time analytics, but I also have another real-time analytics tool that I look at. And I could see someone come into the site pretty much almost real time and see what they're doing and what source they came from and how they attribute it from an analytics perspective. And so like we had someone come in, direct visit, filled out our starter project, validly looking for help for website design. I'm like, okay, direct visit. More and more, if something comes in as a direct visit, it's like I got to step back and be like, okay, it was just definitely not someone that directly went to my website. What influenced them beforehand? And you can't tell. You never know. Uh,
Especially like a business like yours where it's not like a Nike. You know what I mean? It's not
yeah.
like a normal thing just to go directly to Collective 42. Like there's probably like an LLM involved or maybe a social,
So
like there's something more
so
there.
we do have some advertising on some directory stuff that they could have said, oh, I saw you on this website, and I'm now going to go directly to your website instead of clicking through. Okay, we do see leads come directly through that way, or they did an LLM search, right? And this actually got me thinking. And the guy did mention, I'm like, so I'm always asked, like, oh, we had to like an intern kind of do some research on trying to find certain things. And I know that some ChatGPT or LLMs were involved. I don't. So when you do a normal search on like let's say ChatGPT and it has website links and someone clicks on your website and then comes through, you'll see that as a referring source because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a referring source. That's one way to track it. But if it just lists things and then someone copies and pastes and then goes directly to your website, they're not going to show it right at all. Um, as far as a referring because it was
Yeah. It's going to be
copy,
direct traffic.
right?
Yep.
It's direct traffic.
Yep.
But here's the other thing that I'm not sure how to track from a web user perspective. And I think maybe this is what I've been seeing on our site. And I'd have to do a bigger study on this. But like specifically deep research or operator. So when an agent, I'll just call it an AI agent, goes out and does this research, like even bringing it back to the first thing I talked about, the personal research on like looking at real estate. When they went to Zillow, or let's say in our example, this person searched, okay, I'm looking for digital marketing agencies that are based in San Diego that specialize X, X, and X. And it does a deep research and it goes on the internet and goes through the web and they visit websites. You can see it in the deep research when they actually are visiting different websites. What does that look like when it comes to my website when they visited it as a resource? Is that a direct traffic? Is there some sort of signature I mean, it probably is direct traffic. It's not going to be a search. So there is like direct traffic that's coming in, but it's bot traffic, but it's AI bot traffic. And it's not raising its hand that it's AI bot traffic. But I have seen some things in my session logs or my real time that look a little funny, where like it's like a webless browser type of thing. I'm like, is that an AI agent coming into the site and scraping it and getting information? Um, that I don't know how to track. So how often do you know on the behalf of a human, an AI bot is visiting your site, be it operator
Yeah.
or deep research? How do you track that? And I think I'm seeing that because there's some reoccurring themes of IPs or location um, that maybe that's where their servers are at that's sending traffic over. Like there's a weird location in Dallas and there's a couple different IPs that I've seen coming into the site. It's not a Google Mountain View IP. I've never seen this IP, but like, what's that crawler bot IP? That's a browser bot, not one that's scraping your site, but one that's actually browsing the site. Be
Yep.
it
Yep.
operator, deep research. I don't know. So that goes back to your original question, though. Like, how do you have to report it? I think, if anything, you have to be very skeptic of any sort of direct traffic anymore as far as the source of where it came from. I would say, if your lead came in and converted through direct traffic, there is probably a good 75% it was influenced somewhere else. Maybe it was a LinkedIn ad that was
Yeah,
seen. That's why you got to ask those questions in the forum, or ask them when you get on. Hey, how did you hear about this? As far as your questions, changing reporting, I think we touched base this on this a little bit. Um, I would say the only way you could really track like LLMs is like referral data coming in from GA or whatever tool that you're using, and saying, hey, this is what has been influencing, and setting up a module for that. Um, that's something I would maybe add on to it. And then just be highly skeptical of direct traffic, and entertaining or educating the client on that's how it's coming in now. So it's getting more and more confusing on attribution than anything else. So
it's crazy because it's like, it's been like stated by Google and Ruber for years that like cookies were going to go away. So, which I don't think it's probably like ever going to happen, um, like fully. But attribution always getting more and more difficult. And like that was the initial sales of digital marketing. It's great because everything's tracked, and then cookies have gone away, privacy updates, like those types of things have had major impacts. And now like these LLMs throw a total wrench into the whole system of attribution and tracking. Um,
yeah, you can't fingerprint. So even if they don't use cookies, let's say they fingerprint them, they're not going to have a fingerprint. Like they have certain browsers type this that they can fingerprint to track through, especially if it's an AI bot. Because I think at some point in time, Trevor, we're going to have, and this it's not far out, where maybe 50% of our interacting of the search engines or internet is going to be done on behalf of an agent that we deployed.
no doubt,
How do you determine that? Like, I would
no
love to
doubt.
be able to see in my report from GA or whatever, if it's Shopify or whatever platform I'm using, that here's the traffic that's coming in from bots, AI bots, not spam bots, like AI agents. We'll just call them, because bots kind of have a bad terminology. An AI agent on behalf of a human versus a human on your site. You're not gonna know, dude. It's crazy. We're not gonna know if
So
it's actually
nuts.
human traffic or bot or agent traffic coming into the site, or even clicking on your fucking ads. They're gonna do it.
Two things there. I think, um, like I don't know, because it's funny because it's like talking about KPIs, and I start off by saying Rand is pushing like monitor like your performance across socials and all of these different places online, your YouTube videos, your LinkedIn impressions, your comments on your videos, your engagement, like all of these different things. But even then, that's like a little directional, you know what I mean? And like really hard to
Yeah,
quantify. Even if something went super viral, that doesn't mean that that leads to business. It could. But I think that's kind of tough to like have a good like through line and narrative to your clients there of like this is working. But then the second thing is like, if we do get to that point in that world that you just described there with like all these different agents, if we're saying, hey, it's super valuable to generate impressions and engagement online, and you got to be like everywhere on social, you got to have a video and content strategy, etc. Well, what happens if agents just make all of those decisions? You know what I mean? Like, then does your video and your content influence agents like at all? Like then it's like I don't know.
it's weird.
It's like so interesting to like think through if we get to that point in time where it's like all agents, where it's like, hey, we're producing a bunch of like organic social content. It does really well. We feel like we're getting some traction. But then like you tell an agent to go out and find a service or something, maybe like they didn't take your organic social into account whatsoever. And
Yeah.
that's not to say don't do it, because like if humans are going to make those decisions, obviously like you want to have that presence there. But I
We
don't
just
know.
don't
It
know
just
that
gets way
split.
more complicated.
Yeah, we don't know what that split's going to be, or how much that's going to be influenced. But back to your
No,
your first point about like like Rand's comment of tracking, everything on social, your comments, your YouTube videos, this or that. I think the challenge that we have with the way we interact with our clients, specifically, they sign up to one or two service lines with us, you know,
and you're not like fully
you're not
integrated in
necessarily
all
responsible to do that.
100%.
Like the easiest way for us to do that is maybe to create like an overall GA summary dashboard that's like, the basic source medium metrics that are going in, so you get a kind of pulse or feel. But like that is like doing that, which I think is totally valid, right? It's totally valid on like, hey, collect all that information. Dude, that's an in-house marketing manager's job. Like you need to collect all these signals, put it into a giant dashboard, and then just see. And it's probably going to be very manual to do because there's not one single dashboard that's going to pull everything up together. Maybe you can get pretty close. And then you have to look at it and interpret it like, hey, I mean, we could use AI to help interpret it, but like, what I'm saying? Like to pull all that data from all those different sources, someone like me or you working on a client account, let's say it's paid only or SEO only, it's like, one, you don't necessarily have the access, or two, the contract or responsibility to do so. It would be awesome to have that, but I've never seen anybody do that.
I know. And plus two, like think about how fat of a scope of work that would have to be, if like you were really going to do that, of like organic social, paid search, SEO, analytics, content, video production and creative production, like just that's just like,
Yeah, if I
and
was an
some of these
in-house
smaller
marketing manager
businesses are
for a
like,
large brand, then yeah, I would definitely build that and have
no
that
doubt.
report. It would be valuable, but I mean, you could scope it out to someone else that maybe that's all they do is maybe they're like a fractional marketing officer. And they pull those dashboards together, tells that story to you, shows that to you. That could be pretty valuable.
That's so interesting. I just think the one thing that is that I find a little bit I don't know, a little more challenging is the narrative or like the explanation piece, to really communicate that to a client or like an executive of things are a little bit different nowadays, and like we really need to be concerned more with engagement on site, or engagement within our socials, or views within our videos and our organic content, like those types of things. It's just a major shift, and I feel like it takes time to get there and really like understand that concept and understand like the point in time that we're living in now. Whereas before it was like way easier, like, hey, you launch an ad, you got to click, you got a lead, it costs you this much to generate that lead. There's just like, I don't know, it's way more complicated than what it once was.
Yeah, no worries. Sorry, my
Are you?
teenage kid's trying to come into my office, and I'm like, dude, I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle of a podcast. You're online right now. No. Okay, hold on a second here. We're interruption of
We're gonna have a
real
cameo.
life. Yeah, this is going to be on YouTube. I really don't care. Okay. All right. Teenage daughters. Oh boy.
Dude,
Boy.
this needs to be clipped for YouTube short here. And the program has been interrupted. Well, Steve, it's also beach time for you, I think.
I know.
I think that's
Maybe
the
it's
game
gonna
plan
be
for the
rough.
day. But dude, let's end it there. I think that's
Yeah,
something
no,
that
I
we
think
could
it's fine. We can cut clip early. It is what it is.
100%, yeah.
But no, for sure. Great conversation. I think we never know where we're going to go at the beginning of these. Most of the time,
Clearly.
clearly. But I mean, I would be curious to get feedback from anybody or everybody. I know you've gotten feedback before on the podcast, but I don't hear it all that often. But like we've always said, it's always good to catch up with you once a week. And I'll try to bring a guest on next week.
Dude, that'd be cool.
Even if I'll pull in Ricardo or maybe someone else, or if I get motivated, I'll try to find someone that we haven't spoken to before and roll with it.
Cool. Well, go enjoy the weather, and hopefully you're successful with your fishing trip here.
Yeah, we'll do a little fishing. It'll be fun. All
Very
right, thanks
nice.
everyone.
Thanks, y'all. Catch you next week.